has got you from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. today. That is in a couple hours. But right now, we are joined by Jason Aponte, Niners Nation Sprint Right Option Podcast. Jason, we've had you on Stiles and Watkins before. Thank you for joining here on the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Russ. How you doing, my guy?
Great. Living the dream. It's good to talk with you guys. It's been a little while, but football is back in full swing when you look up and you see Hard Knocks is on tonight. And of course, no offseason is complete without some 49ers drama.
I'm just going to give you the floor here because I don't even know what the first question would be for the Brandon Aiyuk situation. Let me ask you this quick one, then we'll get into it. Not even just yesterday, from Friday to now, have you ever seen anything like this? There was a leak that the deal was done. Then he was going to the Steelers. Then the Steelers left the chat. Then the Browns and the Patriots entered the chat. I think that's where we're at now. There's another rumor every 2 seconds. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, and I understand situations remain fluid, but this might be the most fluid of all the situations at this point because moment to moment, who knows? And again, this is all boiling down to people who have sources, but these sources are all telling you one of the three possibilities, which is one, he might be traded. 2, he might sign an extension, or 3, he might just play on his 5th-year option. So this is the most strange part, I believe, of all this. No matter who you ask, you get 3 different answers.
Right.
No one has a definitive lock on what they believe is going on. Someone will tell you there's no way he's coming back. Someone will say there's no way he's leaving. Someone will say that he's on his way out. So it's really hard to get a gauge on it. But if you're looking purely at the way that now things are leaking out, I think we're starting to get a little bit more of a clearer picture. And I believe that it's the 49ers actually putting a bit of a power move on Brandon Aiyuk to kind of say, let's get this resolved one way or another in the next 48 hours.
You know, a lot of people are big on player empowerment. And every time you bring up, oh, well, why doesn't he just take less? There's always somebody that's going to come into your mentions and say, would you take less at your job? What if you thought you were worth this? So I'm not necessarily saying that Aiyuk should take less, but how would you diagnose how Brandon Aiyuk went about this? Do you have any question marks as to how he went about his business? Do you think he went about this the right way, all things considered?
Well, I think the frustration with a lot of fans is the way that these negotiations play out on social media, right? It's kind of rinse, wash, and repeat in terms of wiping anything of your team on there, requesting a trade through the media, leaking out numbers, going on podcasts. This is the new way that things are going to be done. A.J. Brown's done it. Stephon Diggs has done it. Everybody is kind of doing it. So the frustration starts there. In my opinion, Brandon Aiyuk is looking around at some of these guys that are making $28 and $30 million and saying, I put up similar numbers with the same, you look at Jalen Waddle, you look at Devonta Smith, and how does Brandon Aiyuk not sit there and say, man, I'm him. I do exactly what he does. Why wouldn't I get that amount of money? And I'm drafted by you. I've literally done everything that you've asked. I'm one of the best run blockers at the position. I'm doing everything that you've asked. What more do you want from me? The problem is that the 49ers want him back at their price, and they seem very stuck in that. And now Brandon Aiyuk has to make a decision as to, do you want to get paid somewhere else and not compete in the same way? Or are you going to come to our terms, stay here, and let's go chase this chip for another year?
Talking to Jason Aponte, Niners Nation, and the Sprint Right Option podcast. You know, Jason, a lot of people, there were some reports early, and I know it cooled off. A lot of people were saying that the Debo to Brock Purdy connection could be better, right, during training camp, that it could be better. They weren't necessarily connecting Ricky Pearsall. There have been some memes, including Drewski, of Ricky Pearsall not being able to get that separation. Is it being understated if let's say they move off of Brock Purdy, and there are reports that they were going to get Amari Cooper, or they might not get Amari Cooper, but there's only one Brandon Aiyuk, right? And you talk about Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes and that security blanket. Are we talking enough about how this could affect Brock Purdy? Even if they get a Kendrick Bourne or somebody back, it's not Brandon Aiyuk. Are we talking enough about how losing Brandon Aiyuk could affect one Brock Purdy?
Allen, I don't know what year it is. We're talking about Kendrick Bourne and Trent Taylor and Matt Breida. This is insane. I mean, are we getting the band back together?
Yeah.
I think obviously Brandon Aiyuk is one of the better route runners in the league, and I think everybody knows that. And in this system, a lot of the receivers get a bad rap of, well, Shanahan schemes them open. Partly that is true, partly it's not, because Brandon Aiyuk is able to create his own separation on the outside. So when you talk about how this affects Brock Purdy, you have to look around and say, at times, and when you look at how far the ball goes down the field, it's usually to Brandon Aiyuk. Now, Debo's got some shots down the field, but it's still Brandon Aiyuk that's able to create the separation outside and get deeper. And that has been a part of the game that kind of opens up everything underneath. If you don't have that ability to go down the field and threaten the defense even a little bit, now everybody can kind of play a little bit closer. You kind of focus a lot more on the run game, and it just makes those intermediate windows close faster. And that's something that Brock has been able to manipulate by at least showing you I can go with the deep ball, because we haven't seen a 49ers quarterback go deep and actually hit these passes the entire time. I think the last time we saw a Kyle Shanahan quarterback do that was Matt Ryan. So, yes, I think the effect of the threat of him on defense is enough to affect everyone else. And this is not a slight at Deebo Samuel at all, but Brandon Aiyuk is the separator on this team. And I think that is the part that if they're going for a Super Bowl this season and they don't get him back and they don't bring him back, it diminishes their chances severely.
The word leverage continues to be said, and that is part of the leverage I think that Brandon Aiyuk thought he was going to have. Hey, they know that I'm Brock's guy, but the Niners are essentially saying, we think Brock can get a new guy, and we'll see how that works out for him. Jason Aponte, Niners Nation Sprint Right Option Podcast. Jason, when it comes to the rest of the NFC, as you say, obviously the Niners trying to get that Super Bowl. A lot of people thought this was going to be a last dance type of season with some of the mainstays that have been on the team. Which NFC team does worry you the most? Obviously, there's the Lions, and people are really high on the Packers now. Which NFC team worries you the most?
I think it's Detroit. Because they already have so many young pieces in place. They have good coaching. Their offensive coordinator is doing a fantastic job of being able to put guys in bind. Obviously, Amon-Ra is a great player, but they added in the draft at cornerback, and that's where they severely were lacking. And if they even take a little bit of a step on defense, remember, they were a half away from playing in that Super Bowl. So let's not act like they're not like that close. Obviously, when you look at it, people are going to point to, well, can Jared Goff win the big game? I mean, I wouldn't say that Jared Goff was the reason that they lost that game. I mean, his receivers stopped catching the ball. Dan Campbell was making some really weird decisions on fourth down. They missed some field goals. So I think it's Detroit. I really do. I understand the Green Bay Packers because of what you saw at the end of the season, but the Lions have put up more in the last 2 years than they have. So I would give the edge to the Lions, even though the Packers, if they can sustain what they did at the end of the year, they're going to be annoying too as well, because Jordan Love looks like the guy if he can continue that.
Jason Aponte, one more for you. It's been great stuff as always. All right, Jason, whether you're a betting man or not, what are you going to put on the table right now when it is time to kick off against the Jets? Is Brandon Aiyuk in a Niners jersey or not?
Can I bet on chaos?
Well, that's already happening here.
I mean, that seems to be the only constant.
Yeah.
I guess, look, if I have to jump out on a bridge, I'm just going to say this. If the 49ers have trade framework, however they want to phrase it, with the Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots, to me, that screams that Brandon Aiyuk's going to have to make a decision and most likely come back and either play on the fifth-year option or just take the deal that's in front of him. Because I don't think he wants to go to either place. It's already been reported that he said no. Now, what the 49ers are kind of doing right now by putting it out there that they have framework with the other two teams is probably telling Pittsburgh, hey, up that offer. Up that offer and send something else. And two things have to work right here in a trade. The 49ers have to like the terms, and Brandon Aiyuk has to want to go there. He doesn't want to go to Cleveland and New England as far as we know. And Pittsburgh is one of the teams that he would, but if Pittsburgh isn't offering what the 49ers deem as fair value, then we're at a stalemate. So you know what? Today, August 6th, 11:12 Eastern time, 8:12 Pacific time, I say that they find a way to get this back on track, and Brandon Aiyuk is going to be in uniform week 1.
Yeah, you can't say that he didn't give it the old college try. I mean, no, he didn't full on hold out, but he did hold in and try to put his cards on the table. But ultimately in the NFL, the man is always going to win, and that looks like that could be the case. And with that being said, you know, when you read the ESPN article that just came out today, Brandon Aiyuk has said no to teams. So this is a very unique situation where Brandon Aiyuk knows his value, but not only is he trying to get his value, he's trying to get his value in a situation that he likes. And that's just not normally how it works in the NFL, but we'll see how it works out for him and the Niners in the end. Jason Aponte, Niners Nation Sprint Right Option Podcast. Jason, thank you as always. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk with you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Great stuff from Jason as always. You have a great day too, Jason. Coming up next, we